Are we rolling?
There's just not enough. Our wait list is long and we need more places that provide this kind of care.
Yeah, I became homeless. I can't recollect as to what year it is, but it was only a year and a half after coming to this country. So I was on the streets.
I've been homeless all my life, and throughout it, people have not understood that homelessness brings on a lot of mental issues. And because of mental issues, it affects both you and the family. And if hospitals and things like that don't recognize that, then there will be no support in that way. And so from the age of 1, I've had no support anywhere through it. And so I've struggled through addiction to try to solve it. Or I would try to reach out to others and end up hurting them because I'm attached to them too strongly. And forgetting and causing them harms in that way. Not knowing how to stop.
I became homeless. I don't know the exact date, probably about 2012 to 2015, but I had kind of breaks in between. I was part of the hidden homeless in Edmonton. But I had an apartment building which I didn't realise at the time was in a really bad area of Edmonton, and it was infested with bed bugs, and everything I had I kind of lost, had to throw it out. I kept on getting woken up in the middle of the night because I was on the basement floor and I didn't have drapes at the time, and there was some not nice people running around, kept on banging on my door and waking me up because I had to sleep in the living room.
One time when all hell, pardon the language, broke loose there with my ex-husband, I had to go from where we were living as a family, because at that time he was considered the tenant. I was not, the family was not, so I had to leave. And then it was the going through trying to find a place. I felt scared of being homeless. And I did say that to my family, and they said, well, no, you won't be. But that fear was there. For 4 years, I sort of babysat for my oldest daughter. Well, things were not kosher between the two of us, and I ended up in a situation where there was abuse and had to work with my doctor and Calgary Housing and everything, and I had a dog at the time, so that was a little bit of a touch and go, and that's brought me here.
Well, I'm just a normal woman. I was I was working as an office clerk, and next thing I know, I'm having an operation, and I'm homeless. So I'm not only disabled, but I'm also homeless. So I'm trying to absorb both those situations and trying to decide where to go from here. That's basically it in a nutshell.
What precipitated it? My richest to rags story. I guess I had a real problem with pride. And I was taught by God probably that was a bad thing to have. So here I am after all that. I went through a period of substance abuse, I guess beer. What else? I just...
Were there particular events that...
Yeah,
that
like
led...
I said, my first two wives died. And that sort of, the first one especially, took a lot of wind out of my sails.
Yes. All that grief was hard to deal with. And did you have anyone to help you through that or support you through that?
Well, I had help with, like I was a single father, right? And of my sons. So I had some help from my mother with the kids.
Right.
While I was working.
Okay.
She would watch them. So I have to give her credit for that. So,
That's good. Well, it's a good thing you had her
yeah.
to support you through that. Yeah.
I've been homeless a few times, and I have managed every time to claw my way out of it. I've managed to get employment and get out of the shelters. The time that it's the worst, though, was when I finally was diagnosed with spinal stenosis. I was in Edwards Place downtown, and they thought I couldn't manage without more people taking care of me because of the way I was. And at the time, they had said I would be in a wheelchair or a walker for the rest of my life, and that was very frustrating.
I heard a rumor that we could come and film your beautiful room.
I could what?
That we could come and film your beautiful room. Are you still good with that?
Okay.
Okay, I happen to have a film crew here with me, so they'll introduce themselves. They are just taking pictures. That's all they're doing. Okay?
Well, we're fortunate that all of our suites, our entire building actually is accessible. So that's very much on the plus side. Really helps a lot. We've got quite a few people with walkers and that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about the challenges. It would be nice if buildings were designed to meet the specific need of the program. So for us, for example, we haven't got enough storage space, so we want to treat people as individuals, but we don't have enough storage space for people really. And meeting space for the team to be able to get together, those sorts of things. So we're looking forward to our Northeast project, where we're going to be able to design it, to have more of a hand in the design, to meet the kind of things that we're going to need.
in the context of what is written there, which said more than housing, it's a fact, because the minute you get past the door, it's not only housing that people here living get, they get much more than that. They get their meals, they get a chance to take part in games, in indoor games, outdoor games, in groups, and then the food is just out of this world. And you can even have seconds if you feel like. There are quite a number, 1-2 people that like seconds, and they get the seconds. Although I don't have a room at the moment, I live in a dorm. But all the, like, there's a lot of give and take when you live in a dorm. You'll get all kinds of sounds coming at night. Then somebody's coughing, somebody's farting, somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. But, like, on the whole, it's not all that bad. This goes on 24 hours here. When she's on the phone, it looks like she's broadcasting something.
I just needed somebody to hold me last night from such terrible pain. Sometimes
So do you feel at home here?
Oh yes, like I say, I have my own room, my own TV, my own computer, I have my books. That's another thing about the mall. You got the bookstore right there.
Your books?
Yes, I'd like to read.
Can you tell me something about yourself that not everyone knows? Like maybe a hobby, or I get my students to do this. I say, you have to share something about yourself that you wouldn't put on your CV, on your resume.
Well, I like music, and I used to play guitar. I'd like to regain that again.
Yeah.
That's going to take a lot of doing because of my physical disabilities now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose the music.
They asked me, do I feel at home here? And no, this isn't my home. This is like a setting that I'm in right now. In a couple of years, I will be changing that. But I would still like to be able to walk properly and things like that before I make the change.
So you're looking forward to moving in?
I'm looking forward to moving back to Victoria. That's where I come from. And that's where I'm going back to.
All right.
Oh yeah, what if I told before? Yeah.
It is. Well, I'm going to ask you. So I did ask you, do you feel at home here? Why and why not?
Right. Yeah. I feel at home here with regard, I guess, to the respect I'm given. I was never one for going by like really restrictive rules. So I like the relaxation of those.
We live here like a family, Although there's certain people who don't want to mix around. They keep to themselves, but most of them mix around here, and it's a feeling of like, it doesn't feel like you're living in a group home. It feels like you're living at home. And that's a feeling that is great, That's all I can say.
This is one of our smaller suites. The building, as we've talked about, is 12 stories high. We're on the 5th floor right now. This is a smaller suite, and you can see it's got a full bathroom with a tub. A lot of women, especially when they come in here, they say, oh wow, I can have a bath. So that's kind of nice for people. And you'll notice there's shampoo and stuff like that. So we try to bring in a few things like that when someone moves in. And you can see here we have a small kitchen with a microwave and a stove. Notice the burners. They're shut-off burners. So yeah, they stop fires. So after, I forget how many minutes, but after so many minutes they shut off, which is a safety feature. And then each unit has chairs and small tables and a bed.
So it's fully furnished?
Fully furnished, yeah. And then we have a church that comes in and gives us quilts. If you think about coming from shelter or from rough sleeping to here, moving from a mat in a shelter to a bed like this, it's quite luxurious. So we're really happy that we can provide this for folks.
So we have the Wellness Center too. They'll help you with everything from taxes to foot care, taxes to toenails, whatever. If you need to apply for certain programs, they can help you. And you get a lot of perks, actually assistances for living there. So those are good things to have. Plus, through Calgary Housing, I have just secured a subsidy. So they pay for part of the rent.
This place is run or owned by Horizon Housing. It has different agencies that have apartments that they have in here to help bring people off the street in here, as well as, sometimes seniors as well, low income most of the time.
So it's not exclusively seniors
No.
here, it's mixed.
It's a mixed.
Do you feel at home here?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it about that? Like, what does that mean to you?
Because it's my home. Like, it's my furniture, my kitchen. I decide when I'm going to have a meal. I decide if I'm going to have a coffee. I decide what I watch. It is my home. And I say home with all capital letters. Because it is my home. I can do my art here. I can read my books. I can have people come in. You know, all those type of things.
Do you ever think about leaving here?
Yeah, I do, in the fact of that I think about, okay, what's the future going to hold? Say I can't do. What am I, what am I willing to accept? And nothing acceptable really comes to mind. I'm not one to, I hate moving. I mean, they're trying to convince me to remove my stuff because they want to replace the carpets in here. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. My expression completely. Like, you, and I keep getting this, well, you've got too much stuff. Well, I'm sorry, this is my life. All of my life is in this apartment. And I mean, I try very hard to tell people I don't need material gifts.
So, if you could move somewhere, where would that be?
Well, I mean, I don't have any particular thing in mind, to be quite honest with you. Right now, this would be what I want. Like I said, I'm on the ground floor. If I have to go up to the other floors, there is an elevator. Laundry facility is just down the hall. The office is just down the hall in case anything does happen, and one of the managers does live in the building. I have my deck where I can plant my flowers. Last year it was a bit slow. One of the neighbors across the street, he says, I thought you moved. We didn't see the flowers. I mean, after so many years here, you become a part of the community. I know, the stores know me, the clerks know me.
We have 26 buildings in our full portfolio. 15 of those are independent seniors apartments, everything from a tower to little cottages, which we'll see across the way here, little cottages. We operate those on behalf of the province, and those are independent seniors. They make their own meals, still work sometimes. They're all scattered throughout the city. Then we have 9 lodges. This is one of those lodges, and again, they're operated on behalf of the province. And so a lodge is a congregate setting. Seniors over the age of 65 pay their rent. In that rent is 3 meals a day, housekeeping once a week, active aging programs, and safety and security maintenance in that space. When we say it is lodge and supportive housing, and then senior self-contained is what the apartments are called, it is all for low-income seniors. So it is mandated by the province that we provide housing for low-income seniors. It's 30% rent geared to income. Okay? Within the lodge program for low-income seniors, we also have to be able to leave them with a disposable income at the end of the month. So we are not able to charge someone more than what would allow them to have $322 left in their pocket at the end of the month. So this would be a typical size suite within Aspen, and within a lot of our communities would be this typical size suite. So if it's a couple, you can have bedroom, living room. Right. So we can accommodate couples. We don't have a lot of these throughout the portfolio, but then if not, we just close that off, bolt the door, and then it's two separates. Yeah, 2 units separately.
Oh, so there's 2 bathrooms.
Yeah, 2 bathrooms. So I mean, it doesn't make an exact living room, but it allows you to do your space a little bit differently. All the buildings would have, or all the units would have their call system there. We're really trying to move it to be, move it away from just being about a nurse call system about your health, and really being about a safety and a communication tool. And I think that's part of that movement in supportive living, that there are different levels of supportive living up until including long-term care. But how do we engage and ensure that seniors living in this environment are as safe as they can be? Because a little extra safety or a little extra support overnight doesn't really necessitate a move to a higher level of care. Right? And that's unfortunately just the way the system works right now, that if that's a little bit too much, if you need some overnight unscheduled care, that's not what we're able to provide, and so people will move up to a higher level of care when really that's not necessarily the health need, it's more just the safety, security need that needs supporting. So.
To be honest with you, I've never had a home in my whole life. I don't know what a home is, to be honest with you. I've never had a home because I've been picked on or whatever, and I've been out on the streets, I've been in this, and the nearest to it, I guess, is maybe Progress Place in Toronto, where I had both the psychological and support. And they made sure I had lots of food and everything else, and transportation. So it was more like a home than any place else that I've had in my whole life. It's for the first time since I left Toronto where I had everything like this, like is a real home. And even, it's 2 blocks away from where I was born. I have all the support here. There's a big difference. And I'm involved in everything that's going on here, which I couldn't there. So I'm involved in, I got my food, I can come when I want, I can leave when I want, and everything is also the same thing, and cleaning up and everything, home care. So there's not much difference in that way, but I feel 100%, So there's the difference between it, and everybody around me can see the difference because I feel more comfortable. So I just feel at home for the first time in a long time.
I said it before, it's a safe space. It's something I know that I can come home to, and nobody is going to tell me to leave. So to know I've got somewhere safe to come home to, where I've got my coffee, I've got my tea, right? I've got food, I've got a dog that kisses me to death, right? I've got a safe family. That's what home means. And you know what the biggest word about home that I share with my friends is love. Whether that's love of friends, love of community, which is so important, but love of your relationships inside the home.
What makes you feel included in Calgary? These are the 4 things, but also like going out and seeing people who know you.
Okay.
Right? Like you've all talked about that. Or within your community itself. And that's why I think we need to think about what community actually means. Because I know Peter Coyle is like a micro kind of community, right? I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit about how it is a community in its own right. And like, do you feel like you need to go out to get your needs met, or do you have everything on site?
My needs or my wants?
Good question.
Right on.
Touche.
Being homeless was pretty bad. It just sort of sprang on me. I didn't anticipate it at all. So therefore I wasn't prepared for it. It was quite the shock to the system, because I always said to myself, doesn't matter how bad things get, just so long as you find yourself a job, you pull up your socks and keep going. Well, if you're disabled, it's not that easy anymore. Well, you want to feel that you're still important in some way or shape or form, at least to some group of people. So I've yet to find out what that would mean for me, even if it's just for the time being, going to school of some kind. But I want to feel like I'm doing something positive in some way, shape, or form. Like I'm not ready for the shelf.
An unexpected outcome of this documentary is that the process of being involved in this documentary in itself created a community. They have their Facebook group, Beyond Housing Facebook group. There's ties that have strengthened as a result of the documentary outside of this workspace. So in the advocacy work that some of them are doing, there's been a buzz in around the 10-minute feature being out, and the social media, each participant in their own way, if they have social media, they share it. So it's created community and engagement, civic engagement in that way as a result of being in the documentary. So it's interesting that it wasn't actually part of the original conceptualization of doing this documentary, but it's very fitting. And I think it's, from a policy perspective, important that decision makers know that there are things that are working well with the age-friendly strategy, but there are still huge gaps. And here are some examples of some types of housing that are working that could be scaled up, but here are some areas that definitely need more investment in dollars. And a lot of that is thinking outside the box in terms of ways that we can get older people to participate in their communities and be active, because that's what they want.
When I open my eyes, I look up to the ceiling, and the first thing that comes out of my mouth is thank you, God. You've given me a day where I've opened my eyes to, and I can see a roof over my head. And I thanked Him, and I start. Do my shave, shampoo, and all that. Go have my breakfast, cereals. If there are eggs. If there are no eggs, don't make no difference. That is the time of the day where I like most, At least I'm alive. At least I've got a roof over my head. At least there are people I can talk to. At least I won't go hungry. There's so many things. The second thing I do is call my mom. Call her in the morning, all the way in Pakistan. She prays for me over the telephone. And then she blesses me. And my day starts like that, with the prayers of my mother.
I've known him for, the 12 years, and, I'm going to read this short, which was my eulogy for his funeral. His kids have seen it and appreciated it. Remembering George by Laura F. I met George in June 12 years ago at Peter Coyle Place, where we had both left the streets. Peter Coyle accepts street people who were of the age 55 and over. George had no computer and would spend lots of money on calling cards to phone his mom in Pakistan. I offered him the opportunity to help him with my computer to set up a Skype between him and his mom, my computer, freely each day. We set a specific time for this. We also met at Potential Place, the psychosocial rehab center, which I and him have gone for, and with him being there for 19 years. He was in and out of places because of his addiction, which I also understood because of mine, would continue to cause him harm. Whenever he was stable, he'd be a great person to be around and fun to work with. I helped him set up the computer in his second place so he could Skype his mom himself. The last time I worked with him is on this video project. I really miss him. I will be glad we got this video done together. I miss catching up with his family and here at Potential Place. George Jacobs, rest in peace.